Welcome to Ask Lynnwood Cop. I'm Teresa Whipple, and good morning, Sergeant Cole Langdon.
Good morning.
We are here to talk about the fact that it's almost time for school to start.
I can't believe summer's almost over.
I can't either. And there are some things that people should be keeping in mind when those school buses start showing up on the streets. Can you talk more about that?
Absolutely. What we're asking of our citizens now is to take three things into account. We want you to remember school buses, school zones, and then personal safety. The personal safety element we'll talk about in a minute is mainly directed towards the parents of our school children that are walking to and from school and are just being away from home now for long periods of time, and what steps they need to take to keep themselves safe. School buses, we'll talk about that, and it's my understanding that my partner down at Edmonds already had a really nice discussion about the specific rules regarding school buses. It's important to understand the school bus laws were written for the safety of the children, and we're taking a zero tolerance policy on that. If you pass a school bus with its red signal out, red lights flashing, it clearly states on there that you shall not pass it, especially when traveling in the same direction, you will be fined, and we will find you. You will receive an infraction for that. And the main thing that we're looking at here is we have to take a zero tolerance stance on this because the safety of the children is paramount. If you have any further questions about the specific laws, I'd encourage you to look at Shane Hawley, Detective Shane Hawley's piece on Edmonds News, and we'll have him discuss it in a little more detail. In terms of the school zones, it's also important to understand that when children are present in a school zone, whether lights are flashing or not, if you see children walking within 300 feet of a marked crosswalk, that is considered an active school zone, and you are required to travel at 20 miles an hour. So at this point, what might normally be a 30-mile-an-hour school zone has been reduced down to 20. So if you're going 5 miles over the speed limit, going at 25, maybe even 27 miles an hour, you could be subject to an infraction, subject to a fine. And again, this is all about the safety of the children. We have our young kids walking to and from school. They're being taught to respect the traffic laws, and we need you to do the same. So what we ask you to do is just keep an extra eye out when you're getting near a school or when you see a marked crosswalk. If you see lights flashing or you see a young one walking down the street with their backpack on, let's take that time to slow it down and make sure that our kids are getting to school safely. And you're also setting an example for any kids that you might have in your car. The final piece concerning personal safety, really important that our kids understand the basic stranger danger talks that we try and have with our children at an early age. Give them some skills, give them an understanding of what's appropriate contact between an adult, what's an appropriate conversation, and what's something that should cause them concern. If a stranger were to come up and engage them in a conversation on their way to school, what should they do? That's something where you need to give your children hard skills, give them an understanding of what's appropriate, what's not, and how they can deal with the situation as it comes up. Whether that's going towards another parent, whether that's getting into a more public place, whether that's giving them certain cues or verbal commands or verbal responses that they can give to this stranger who's trying to engage them in a conversation, what they can do to make themselves safe and get themselves into a better position. So those are the three things I would really like you to focus on, and those conversations need to take place before the school year starts. Have that talk about personal safety. Remember, school zones have to slow down, better safe than sorry, and then also our school buses. Anywhere that you see those, be aware that there are children onloading and offloading from those, and their safety is paramount.
And I think we've talked about this before, but when it comes to school zones and those flashing lights, sometimes people wonder why they might be on early or later than when they would expect school to be in session.
Right.
And what I remember us talking about before is that oftentimes there are early school programs that
right.
There's a reason for those lights to be on so early.
Yeah,
so
all of our,
be aware.
That's a good point. Our marked school zones are actually the yellow flashing lights that give warning that the school zone is active. Those have all been programmed to the school schedule for that given year. So if we have half days, if we have off days, then the lights have been adjusted to reflect that. So better safe than sorry, though. And the thing to remember, if that yellow light is flashing or not flashing, if there's a children present within 300 feet of that marked crosswalk, it's still a school zone. So that goes for even summertime hours.
Okay, very good. Well,
All
thanks
right.
very much for the advice, and we'll be back again soon with another episode of Ask the Lynnwood Cop.